Hey YouTubers, what's up? This is Dennis Freeman Jr. here. And so today I thought I'd do a video about the Egyptian god cards, giving a little brief history about them as well as possible play styles involving the three god cards. So the Egyptian god cards are considered to be the three most powerful monsters in the game, and they have served as a focal point for the original Yu-Gi-Oh! TV series. These three monsters are known as Obelisk the Tormentor, Slifer the Sky Dragon, and the Winged Dragon of Ra. Now, originally when the Egyptian god cards were first released as cards in the Yu-Gi-Oh! TCG, they were released as part of a video game that was called the Yu-Gi-Oh! Game Boy Worldwide Edition, which featured the Egyptian god cards in as they were released in the original anime, with the Obelisk card being blue, the Slifer card being red, and the Ra card being yellow. But however, though, the thing is, though, is that these cards weren't supposed to be used legally in duels. Their only purpose was that they just served as collector's items, even though people would make proxy rules involving the cards. But however, legally, though, the Egyptian god cards couldn't be used. Over the subsequent years, though, when Konami had re-released these illegal god cards in different video games, magazines, and books, though, they later included in the lower left-hand corner of the card saying that this card cannot be used in a duel, thereby showing that they are in fact illegal. And so ultimately, it wasn't until December of 2009 in the January 2010 issue of Shonen Jump that they featured the first legal Egyptian god card, which is Obelisk the Tormentor, as the artwork here was done by the creator of Yu-Gi-Oh! Kazuki Takahashi. And then in the January 2011 issue, which came out in December of 2010, featured the second legal Egyptian god card, which was the Winged Dragon of Ra. And then finally, in August of 2012, they had released the last Egyptian god card, Slifer the Sky Dragon, as a promo card given to those who have a subscription to Weekly Shonen Jump Alpha, because back in March of last year, Shonen Jump had went from a monthly printed magazine format to a weekly digital format. And as a result, though, this Slifer card was considered to be more valuable than both the Obelisk and Ra cards, given the fact, though, that it wasn't as mass-produced, though, and it's not as easy to find. And over here, though, we have the legal god cards in their original artwork, and these cards were released recently in the Battle Pack 2 War of the Giants in a special rarity that is known as Mosaic Rare, as you can see by the holographic squares that you can see throughout the card when you view them through certain angles. And the Egyptian god cards are only available in this rarity in that set, but they're good collector's items, and since I'm a big fan of the Egyptian god cards, it made sense as to why I had to have a play set of all the god cards, promo and Battle Pack 2. Because when I first started playing Yu-Gi-Oh! About 10 years ago, some of the first cards that I got was the Egyptian god cards, just because I thought they were cool. Now, let's talk about the Egyptian god cards and their play style. Now, the first thing about the Egyptian god cards is that obviously in order to summon them, you have to tribute three monsters in order to normal summon them. They cannot be set under no circumstances, except by some card effect later on, but they can't be tribute set. Nextly, the Egyptian god cards, all three of them, share the same ability as to where their normal summon cannot be negated, and during the turn that they're normal summon, cards and effects cannot be activated. And then there are slight variations in their effects. For instance, let's start with Obelisk. Obelisk's solo effects, though, aside from the shared abilities that he has with Slifer and Ra, is that he cannot be targeted by any cards or effects, period. And if you tribute two monsters, then he destroys all monsters on your opponent's side of the field, but he can't attack in that same turn. So that would make him more of an offensive-based Egyptian God card. And as you can see, though, he's the only Egyptian God card that has a fixed attack and defense, as Slifer and Raz are unknown because their attack and defense points are contingent based on certain conditions. Slifer the Sky Dragon, his unique effects is that he gains 1,000 for every card in your hand. But now the thing is, though, is that his attack and defense points are always fluctuating. So whether you add cards to your hand or play cards or lose cards from your hand, his attack and defense points will change. And his effect is to where if your opponent was to normal summon or special summon a monster in face up attack position, then it loses 2,000 attack points as a result. And if its attack has been reduced to 0, then it is destroyed. And so that makes Slifer more defensive, as this ability is designed to more so protect it, and even by extension your other monsters do also due to Slifer's fluctuating attack and defense points. The Winged Dragon of Ra is considered to be more or less, in terms of the TCG, to be both the strongest and the weakest of the Egyptian God cards, and I'll elaborate. What makes him the strongest, though, is because when the Winged Dragon of Ra is normal summon, you have the option of paying all your life points until you leave yourself with only 100, and whatever you paid becomes Ra's attack and defense points. So especially if you're at a full 8,000 and you summon Ra, then you give him 7,900 attack and defense, which is more than enough to take out your opponent in one shot, assuming that they're not at full life points. And then, I'm sorry. Also, Ra has another ability where if you pay 1,000 life points, his effect lets you destroy a monster on the field. But now the reason why I say he's the weakest is because Ra is perceived as being an all or nothing card, though, because if you choose to not pay the life points to bolster Ra's attack and just pay life points just to use his destruction effect, Ra will have 0 attack and defense, which makes it easier for it to get run down by any monster unless you got some cards on the field to protect it. And another interesting thing that I forgot to point out about the Egyptian gods is that whenever Obelisk or Ra is special summoned under any circumstances, whether it's from the hand, the deck, or even the graveyard, they go back to the graveyard during the end phase of the turn. But however, Ra cannot be special summoned. And so these are some gameplay thoughts that I had involving Egyptian God cards, because I'm seriously considering about building an Egyptian God deck. Now, for the Egyptian God deck, though, I know it's going to revolve around tributing monsters, especially ways to quickly get 3 monsters on the field and then sack them. And that's why I thought cards like D-Boys, Giant Germ, Nimble Momonga, and amongst many others would serve as good tribute fodder, though, in order to get them on the field. But then you also got to think what spells and traps are good for protecting them, though. And so that's where I learned about a powerful spell card, which is a common, and it's from the set Cosmo Blazer, and it's called March of the Monarchs, which is a continuous spell. Its effect is that during the turn that monsters that are monsters you control that were tribute summoned, they cannot be targeted, nor can they be destroyed by card effects, and that, used in conjunction with the Egyptian god's own effects, makes them nigh invulnerable. And then Hardened Arm Dragon, which is an effect monster card where if you tribute it, then the monster that was tribute summoned while using this card as a tribute, it can't be destroyed by card effects. So that even makes the Egyptian God cards practically invincible by that aspect, because it's very seldom that you're going to be able to take an Egyptian God card down in battle. And another thing, though, that makes the Egyptian God so interesting is because although this card currently exists in the OCG, but it has yet to make an appearance in the TCG, is a monster card that is known as the Creator God of Light, Herakati. And Herakati is known for being a divine attribute just like the Egyptian gods. But however, though, it has the type Creator God, but I don't know if they're going to change that title, though, once the card is translated into English, though. But Herakati cannot be normal summoned or set, and it cannot be special summoned except by attributing 1 each of a monster from your side of the field, who include the following names: Obelisk the Tormentor, Slifer the Sky Dragon, and the Winged Dragon of Ra. Your opponent cannot activate any cards in response to its summon, and when this card is special summoned, you automatically win the duel, which is pretty good. And I've been thinking of ways as to how you can summon Harakati, though, because the thing is, since summoning an Egyptian god requires 3 tributes, though, ultimately, if you were doing it that way with each god card, you're sacking a total of 9 monsters just to get them on the field and then send them off for Harakati. But then I learned that through the Yu-Gi-Oh wiki, though, in a issue of V Jump magazine, which is the Japanese equivalent of the Shonen Jump magazine, they had an article about a Tri-God deck and about a way to quickly summon Harakati. Now, even though it was mostly in Japanese, from what I was able to deduce from it, is that a way to summon Harakati is that if you were to special summon both Obelisk and Slifer from the graveyard using cards like Call of the Haunted or Monster Reborn, doing this first, special summoning those 2, and then tributing 3 monsters to summon Ra, because as I said before, when Ra is normal summon, cards and effects can't be activated, because if you would have tried to summon Ra first and then try to do the other 2, you wouldn't be able to do that because Ra's effect is preventing you from activating other cards. But anyway, back to the strategy. So when you special summon Obelisk and Slifer, and then subsequently tribute 3 monsters to normal summon Ra, you got all 3 guys on the field, and then you just send them to the graveyard for Harakati and game your opponent. So at some point, though, in the coming weeks or whatnot, I will try to build a Tri-God deck and try and see how good it works out, though. And I'm hoping, though, that Harakati will get an English release very soon, though. And I just hope, though, that it won't be hard as hell to find, though. But altogether, though, I just had to collect all 3 copies of each of the God cards in both their regular promo forms as well as the ones with the original artwork, because they just look so awesome, though. And it's just and looking at them brings back so much memories, though, as I'm sure they probably do for you too, especially if you were a fan of the original Yu-Gi-Oh series. But anyway, YouTubers, I hope that you guys enjoyed this video, and if you have any suggestions involving a Tri-God deck or any strategies involving Obelisk, Slifer, and Ra, I'm always open to hear about them, because I like to hear what other people think about the cards and about what they can use, and as far as like what strategies they can use and what works best for them. All right, YouTubers, well, until next time, peace out.